It's better than that. All right. Yep. 1, 2, 3, go.
Thank you all very much for coming. And hello to the Cork Folk Festival 2020. Here we are in Cork City Library, and we hope you're all able to tune in, and hope there's not too much jitter in the connection. Facebook Live, and on Facebook Live, send in any of your comments. We can see someone coming up there already. Very welcome to Cork in this book launch for Jessie Cole. Okay, so I'm Patrick Egan, and it's great to be here today, especially great to be able to celebrate this launch with both the author of this wonderful book and the musicians who feature in it as well under strict COVID conditions here. Nevertheless, we've got a treat in store for you today. I'm kind of new to the scene here in Cork, only here about 6 years, while Jessie's been here for a lot longer than that, and the people behind me here, Lisa Sullivan and Seamus Sands. and we have Anthony over here, who's been working on setting everything up for us and keeping everything in check. Thanks very much, Anthony. You all probably have been, a lot of people have been around Ireland, different sessions, but for some of you who haven't been there, Cork here is a real hub in Ireland for Irish traditional music. There's some great sessions over the years, and I have had some of the best sessions I've had from all the different places I've been in Cork over the last few years. So when I first heard that Jessica was writing this book, I was thinking to myself, this is going to be superb. I've been following her progress over the past number of years, her background in New Hampshire, where she got a B.Mus in music education, and she also won a scholarship to study in UL, I think, in Limerick in 2008, was it? That's right. She graduated with first class honours there in 2008, and she actually went on to get a PhD then in UCC. So there's a great calibre and consistency to her work, and we can see that in this book that we have here today. Becoming an Irish traditional musician, learning and embodying music and culture, from Jessie Colley. So the sites of fieldwork, I think it's fair to say that the Corner House and the Shinnay, places like that, where Jessie attended some of the greatest sessions, is a perfect place to see a very diverse range of different types of musicians and repertoire as well. People like Lisa and Seamus here are, they have a very different background, but they have a great extensive repertoire of tunes and very well respected on the scene. So it's great to see that range of different types of people who are in this book itself. When I was going through the edits with Jessica, we had an interesting discussion about all of this, actually. I think at some points I kind of overwhelmed you with the amount of comments I was adding to it, as I was getting very enthusiastic about the content that was there. A lot of stuff I had never seen written about before in Irish traditional music. I think the thing that struck me most was it was like exactly what happened myself growing up as a musician, learning in County Wicklow and beyond. All of the different facets of becoming a musician. I think we can all say that the road is never straight. There's always something new that comes in along the way as you're learning Irish traditional music. So this has been caught in some ways in academia, and in some other ways then in some of the great writings of people like Kieran Carson in Last Night's Fun. A lot of amazing tall tales and good poetry inside that book. But I think for Jessica's one, we really get a sense of connecting to wider academic debates, but also being able to look at what happens as you are continuing to learn repertoire and become a musician, and then the different organizations that you encounter along the way. And I think you managed to capture both of those, Jessica. The way that you've interweaved interviews with people like Seamus here and Lisa, I think it's fascinating to see that coming together. And also people like Martin Hayes and Mary Bergen. I think that speaks to something that we can all share when interacting with Irish traditional music. As he said in the introduction, I think the very first page was from Etienne Wenger. She says, learning transforms who we are and what we can do is an experience of identity. It's not just an accumulation of skills and information, but a process of becoming. So I was delighted to read about becoming in this book, because the narratives are related to a broader picture of how it all fits together in festivals, flagyols, how people grow while sharing tunes together, and especially in group situations. That's something that's at the core of Irish traditional music community. Jessica, of course, continues to dedicate herself to this community aspect of her everyday work. Some of the initiatives that she's involved in have been the Creative Tradition, which she set up, the Club Ceol here in Ballyphehane and over in Blarney, Tribe Camp in Knocknaheeny, recently established Music Generation Initiative with Sound Out, and lecturing in University College Cork. So through this, Jessica is helping so many young people to become educated and getting a valuable education in Irish traditional music. And this book also gives us a part of our heritage and recent progressions that have happened within that back to us, saved for the next generation to see. There's even a section in there on new technologies on the internet, which is fascinating. Jessie is embodying this Chuckig, Mullen Oiga agus Chuckig, which in Irish it means praise the youth and they shall follow, our youth response to praise. And that comes to mind when thinking about Jessie here, because she has shared with us the numerous different pathways through which we learn Irish traditional music, but she's also bringing it on to next generations through different community involvement. So this is an inspiration to so many, and with this book and your approach, I think it has to be highly commended. So Jessie, congratulations on your great achievements, and we're truly lucky to have someone as dedicated and fahulach as you, sharing your love of Irish traditional music. We're all glad you've been able to produce such a rich, detailed, interesting, and enjoyable account of becoming an Irish musician. Long may you be able to continue to share these experiences in your day-to-day life in Cork and beyond in the future. Oh
my God, thank you so much, Patrick. I'm incredibly humbled. That was such a nice, I don't even know what to say. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. It's quite emotional being here, playing tunes again, so thank you very much, not just for the introduction, but as Patrick said, he read my PhD, and then he read manuscripts of the book and commented, and we had so many nice discussions of of all the themes throughout, and he even played tunes with me at the FLA during my field work. So he's been there kind of throughout the whole time. So thank you very much for that introduction. It was so lovely to hear. And I'd also thank you for playing tunes as well. He's here doing double jobs today. He's obviously a fantastic concertina player, in addition to his own scholarly work and all the stuff that he does behind the scenes. So I just want to thank Patrick again for those lovely introduction. And I also want to thank my other two friends here, Lisa O'Sullivan from North Cork, here on the fiddle, and Seamus Sands, originally from County Down, here on the fiddle as well. So I'm really happy that we're able to play tunes together tonight. And it's great to have some people involved who were involved with the book here, even just celebrating the launch, really. It's really nice to play tunes with this group of people again. I've known Seamus and Lisa for so many years now, and I'm just so grateful for their help during the book. And so it's just nice to play tunes again after the lockdown and all that. So I'd also like to thank, I probably should stand up, right? I'll stand up. Also, I'd like to thank, just so you can hear me a bit better with the mic, I need to give my gratitude to Hammy, William Hammonds at the Cork Folk Festival for supporting this launch. And thank you very much as well to Helen McGonigal here at Cork City Library for supporting the book launch and agreeing to have it hosted here. They could have very easily just said it's canceled because everything's shut up. So I'm really grateful that they gave us the space and they helped us with the restrictions and all that to get it up and running. So it's fantastic to actually have it next year. So here, what we're doing tonight is really just celebrating the release of the book, Becoming an Irish Traditional Musician. And the book is really just a snapshot of Irish traditional music culture. And it focuses on the transmission process starting around the 1950s until 2019. And you might even say it's the last book of an era, the last book right before COVID-19 hit and impacted music culture here in Ireland and all over the world, of course. So I finished writing the book actually January 1st, 2020. And then I proofread it during the shutdown with the wonderful editors at Routledge. And so I was at home with the 2-kilometer restrictions while reading about sessions and reading about festivals and learning about how people learn tunes at clubs and poultice branches and pipers clubs and all these things. So it was kind of surreal proofreading bits like that under those conditions. And with any luck, things will kind of normalize again, but we're still not there yet in the field of music. And when they do normalize, it'll never be the same as it always was, because culture is always changing anyway. It's never going to be 2019 again. So in some small way, I think it's actually kind of nice to read the book again, because you can kind of actually revisit a little bit and remember things the way they were, even just for a small period of time. So instead of summarizing the whole book or every chapter, I think over the next 10 minutes or so, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the process of what I went through and maybe how the book came to being. And the whole purpose of the launch really is to acknowledge all the various institutions and individuals that made the work possible and helped me out along the way. And of course, we're going to be celebrating with a bit of music itself at some point at the end with some more tunes, thank God. So my own entry into the world of Irish traditional music was pretty quick and dramatic. It was like a light being switched on for the first time. So beginning around 2004, I barely knew anything about trad music, and then all of a sudden it became kind of my obsession. It was like my main form of music making and my main hobbies, pretty much straight away. I was immediately hooked by the haunting and exhilarating nature of the music itself. I loved the tunes, the rhythm, the tone, style, everything about it. It's kind of immediately hooked. I first started getting into Irish music as an undergraduate student of music education back in New Hampshire, a little bit north of Boston. So I must thank my teachers first at the University of New Hampshire, there, especially Dr. Andrew Boysen and Dr. Susan Hatfield, because at the time they encouraged me to start conducting research in Ireland, and I was awarded a grant there to conduct fieldwork here in Ireland. So that little mini project as an undergraduate student really sowed the seeds of this current book. It's been that long of a process coming. And so my first fieldwork trip to Ireland was in 2005. And within a month of arriving, I felt home, like somehow I had belonged in this country and I belonged within the community, the musical community. Even though I was very much an outsider, somehow there was a strong sense of belonging. It persisted. And one of the many things that attracted me to Irish traditional music was the really vibrant social and participatory side of the music. So from sessions or sing-songs, ceilidhs, traditional music seemed very energetic, but also inclusive to different skill levels and different age groups. So there seemed to be like a space for different roles, like amateurs, semi-professionals, or professional musicians could all be playing together in various contexts. So it seemed quite open to me. At the time, like many music educators, I guess I was pretty concerned about musical progression. I was concerned about very high dropout rates in school music making. And when I crossed over into the world of traditional music, I started to feel like the culture represented probably like an alternative model of music learning, and almost even a different way of being in the world. I thought if I could understand the cultural system, I might be able to answer lingering questions from the field of music education, like how can we encourage long-term musical participation? And how can teachers and policymakers and the education system foster lifelong learning? The field of music education would gain so much from observing, experiencing, and understanding other learning systems and musical cultures from around the world. So my introduction into the trad music world came somewhat abnormally, you might think. It came through cultural immersion during travel and during fieldwork. Like on the surface, this might seem like a really formal and very academic way of learning traditional music. But I would think that the processes I experienced is pretty similar to how countless other people have learned traditional music over the generations. So I was without a teacher those first few years. So I primarily learned through listening, just haphazardly getting advice through other musicians. I hunted down recommended recordings, and this was way before Irish music was available online. So I had to travel around and listen and play and record music at sessions, and then try to learn the repertoire by ear at home, so I could play more sessions. So that's pretty standard stuff. And what was interesting to me was initially this 1-year research project ended up becoming more of a way of being for me, a passion. So traditional music isn't just my field of study. It actually became intertwined with my personal identity and my life story, particularly through the friendships I've made over the years from like this lot here. So when I started learning trad as well, I had no ambition to become a traditional musician. I was a saxophone player, and I didn't say, well, now I'm going to switch to trad. I didn't have any notions of building anything. I actually was just literally obsessed with flute playing, and I wanted to learn one tune, and one tune became 2 tunes, and then 3 tunes, and then gradually over the years, somehow this all morphed into something. And it really started to develop a full-blown case of bimusicality pretty much when I moved to Limerick in 2007. I went to Limerick to study at UL, ethnomusicology at UL, and that's when I really started progressing as a musician and kind of even as a thinker of what trad music means, you know? So in that regard, I do need to thank all my teachers and lecturers at UL, especially Niall Keegan, Sandra Joyce, Kirsten Alstaff, and Micheál O'Sullivan, who is very sorely missed. My MA thesis in UL focused on oral learning in session situations, and that really inspired me to further the research here in Cork in the area of transmission, and I studied the PhD here at UCC. So I would also like to thank all the teachers, lecturers, and colleagues that I had in the Department of Music at UCC, especially my doctoral supervisor, Mel Mercier, who is now up in Limerick. And I'd like to give a huge thank you to my mentor, Griff Ralstein, as well, who helped me with book proposals and grant applications, which led to my postdoctorate study and research there at UCC. So the book, Becoming an Irish Traditional Musician, definitely would not have been possible without support from the Irish Research Council as well, and through the support of UCC during the postdoc research. So the Irish Research Council do incredible work supporting research on the island of Ireland, so I'd just like to thank them as well. And before I go any further, I would really like to just take a big pause as well and thank my family who have supported me throughout that whole journey I just was talking about. So I really couldn't have done it over the years without the Colley clan in the United States, in New Hampshire. They've supported me through years of education, and they've just been absolutely supportive and wonderful. So I'd like to thank my family in the United States, and also the McSweeney's here in Ireland. I need to thank them for everything they've done to me, made me feel so at home here in Cork. And thank you to my wonderful husband, Anthony, who's been doing the tech here tonight, but more so than just the tech side of things, he's helped for so many years supporting me and minding our two small boys while I've finished this book and got everything done. So I just really like to thank him from the bottom of my heart for being so patient and so kind to this whole process. And he's spent so much time minding our boys while I wrote this book. He's pretty much like a co-author of the whole thing. So just say thank you to you. Right, okay, so back to the book itself. Very quickly, I'm just gonna give you a brief overview of the whole themes of the book, and then before we play a few more tunes. So I used performance as a research tool for the book. And in addition to that, the book is based on interviews and fieldwork within the trad community itself. So I suppose primarily I need to thank and credit all 22 musicians who helped me out by talking to me several occasions and interviewing and letting me interview them about their life histories. I've learned so much about music and life in general really, from the musicians who offered their time, their learning experiences, and their stories. So my warmest thanks goes to Paul Clesham, Mick Daly, Cormac Dufresne, Liz Doherty, James Duggan, Helen Gubbins, Aoife Granville, Martin Hayes, Kieran E. Fergal, Geraldine O'Callaghan, Connie O'Connell, Conal Grada, Lisa O'Sullivan here, her brother Michael O'Sullivan, Joanne Cork, John Reed, and Niall Valley. I have more. There's a lot of amazing musicians there. It's actually impressive that I would say that many people out loud. It's like, I'm so humbled I even got to meet these people. Also, I'd like to give a very special shout out to Tomas O'Cannon and his family. Tomas was a brilliant man, scholar, musician, singer, Irish speaker, Japanese speaker. He was an incredible person, and I was really lucky to meet him before he passed away and chat to him. So I'm really just humbled I got to meet him. And I just like to thank his family as well for being so supportive and being in touch with me. And they gave me a really lovely photo to feature in the book, just to remember him. So I just wanted to give him a special remembrance today. In addition to all those musicians, I also need to very much thank and point out 3 other interviewees, Seamus Sands here, Hammy Hamilton, and Matt Cranich. And these 3 interviewees, they chatted to me about their backgrounds, but they also have taught me tunes. And all 3 of them as well read the entire book, probably more than once even, I'd say, and they gave so much feedback. So like Patrick here, Hammy Hamilton, Matt Cranich, and Seamus here, they were really, really kind to read what I thought about the book, and we have chats about ways of thinking and stuff. So they kind of went above and beyond really, and they were almost like mentors as well. So I've learned a lot of tunes off of Seamus. I'm a wannabe fiddle player as well. So I've learned a lot from Seamus, and I learned some flute tunes from Handy as well. So I wanted to give a special shout out to them. So in addition to all the fabulous musicians I interviewed, I worked in several locations in the field, and I chatted to many more people in the community members who helped out with the perspectives on the books. So in this regard, I would really like to thank Fergal in the Corner House and Aidan in the Sinead. And they sat down with me and they told me all about the history of music making in their pubs, but also the history of music in Cork City. And they were just really kind to give a nice context to music making in Cork. And on the online sphere, I would like to give thanks to Jeremy Keith on thesession.org and Tony Lawless of Trad Connect. So they detailed the development of their websites and how people use their websites as tools for learning. For their advice and help throughout my fieldwork, I also would like to thank John Rinn of the Ennis Trad Fest, Harry Hughes of the Willie Clancy Summer School, and Maurice Deneen, who runs the fabulous community initiative here in Cork. He runs Club Kill Ballyfahan, which is a really, really lovely place to learn trad music. So I like to thank all of them as well for chatting to me about their institutions and their organizations. And chapters 2 and 3 of the book feature the influence of Cultus Kiltory Erin, the Flakhill, and Skull Asia. So I need to thank lots of people in Cultus who have helped me out at national level and at branch level. So I'd like to thank Shivani Ponaran, Barry Colgan from Douglas CCE, Jerry Ahern, Martin Power from Ballincollig, the Ballincollig Cultus branch, and Frank McHugh from the Cultus in Glenmire. I also like to acknowledge and thank Michal Di Butler in Youghal and Dahi Carney for their support. They gave me permission to print a tune book that they use in the Cultus branch there. And I'd also like to acknowledge Michal and all involved in the Brunaschi Cultural Center in Youghal for supporting trad music making and music education in Cork much more broadly. I'm gonna say a big Garamila Mahagat to Eddie Hennessy for volunteering such wonderful photographs of the front cover right here, which is a photo of Sinead. So thank you, Eddie, for giving me the photograph of the book. And he's also done the photographs of Seamus in the back of the book and Mick and Cormac. So thank you to Eddie. And I'll conclude now with just one or two impressions to leave you with. So firstly, I'd like to say that no single institution, individual, or regional area has revived or made Irish traditional music vibrant. Instead, it's not any one thing, it's a broad network of individuals, community groups, organizations, and informal music spheres that forms a very complex musical ecosystem. And it's this ecosystem that the book really tries to capture. Secondly, I'd like to say that learning Irish traditional music doesn't really require any specialist training or multiple hours of practice a day to maintain your musicality. You don't have to go to a conservatoire. There's no set rules that you have to do. So it's like a relatively, what I'm thinking is, trad music in general is, if you want to learn one trad tune on a traditional instrument, it's a relatively simple process to learn a tune. You might hear classical musicians sometimes say traditional music is pretty simple. A polka is just simple. Learning one tune might be simple, but actually, if you want to master traditional music, if you want to develop a sense of expression, a sense of individual style, takes a huge amount of time and effort. The learning process of one tune, or learning how to play a scale on the flute here, is not that difficult, maybe, you could say. But no one can skip steps along the process. To achieve like musical fluency in trad, to cultivate a sense of musicality or personal expression, it takes years of support and connection to the community. You cannot fast track musical inculturation. There's no shortcuts to embody a sense of musical style or understanding. There are, of course, really useful tools and strategies along the way, and the book is kind of dedicated towards that. But at the end of the day, if you want to become a traditional musician, you're going to have to listen, and then play with other trad musicians for a very, very long period of time. Things like going to flaw competitions, being at a cultist branch, going to a pipers club, playing in sessions are very, very common sites of learning in trad music. But you don't have to do competitions to be a trad musician. You don't have to do these things. It's a very flexible process. There's lots of different pathways to come into the tradition. So to conclude the talk, and before we get to more tunes, I'd like to quote one of my interviewees. I'll leave you with a quote, and this comes from Joanne Quirk from Cork City here, and she's an All-Ireland flute player, and she says this about the learning process, about learning trad music. She says, everybody's story is different, and that's what I like about it. There are a lot of people who have learned trad because their family learned it and they went down that path. But I don't think it's something that you need to do. I suppose what you need to do is play with as many people as you possibly can. Take every opportunity, listen as much as you can, but playing really, just getting out there and just going to loads of sessions, going to concerts, and apart from that, I don't know, just playing constantly. And with that, I suppose I declare the book is launched. And we will celebrate with polkas, as you do. All right, so we're gonna play a set of polkas, and I will introduce them. I only know, I have something to admit, I only know 2 polkas before I came to Cork. Very bad, isn't it? I knew 2 polkas, and
you know too many.
I know, yeah, exactly. So I'm a living embodiment. If you're in a place, you naturally learn things just all the time. And now I love polkas. Now I know loads of them. So we're going to play 3 polkas, and the first one's John Walsh's, and the other 2 do have names as well. But the first one is John Walsh's, and I actually played tunes with John in Blarney. He's a lovely gentleman. So I'd like to give a shout out to John Walsh. We're going to play your tune, and yeah, good. That's it. So are we finished with the set of reels? Do one more? Yeah. Super duper. I don't even know if anyone's watching, but that's okay. Nice to have Tuesday. Lovely. All right, so we'll play one more set. Yeah, one more set of tunes. Yeah, Lily? Right. Yeah, one more set of tunes. We'll do what is it? Last night's fun into the Abbey Reel, and I suppose the only story I have about the Abbey Reel is actually the first tune I ever learned. So I don't know why I didn't do any easy tunes first. I went straight to the reel. And actually, I learned this reel. I got to give a shout out to Peter Malloy. He wrote down the ABCs of this tune for me, and it was my first proper tune that I learned. And I just need to thank him. He wasn't my teacher. He just ran the Shasky pub in my hometown. And like every other flute player on the planet, I was heavily influenced by his dad, Matt Malloy, obviously, as flute players go. But even a little bit more personal than that, like I got tunes directly from Peter, and it's kind of stuck with me ever since. So this is the first reel I ever played, so I might just give a shout out to him. And Matt as well. So my two favorite flute players, the two boys. And the first one's Last Night's Fun. It's a lovely tune, isn't it? And yeah, okay. All right, you watch it. Yay, Sinead. All done.
Well, we do have one surprise.
Oh. Oh my goodness. Oh, yeah, yay, thank you. I'm allowed to kiss him, he's my husband, we're in the same household. And mwah. Thank you. Oh, thank you. That's awesome. Thanks a million. Thanks for watching. If you are, you're all very nerve-wracking. Don't know if anyone's watching, but if you are, thanks. Bye. Over.